back to the OSP Sports channel. It's been a while. I missed it with the season opener, but I'm in school, college first semester, so getting accustomed to that. And plus, it was like a couple of my exams, got a couple left, but I think I know you guys don't care about me, but the hard part is done. Right now, I've got a little bit more time on my hands. I'm obviously able to watch the races and stuff, always up to date, but just maybe recording the videos, finding the time to do that, especially when I'm in a household of 5. Don't want to have too much noise. Like right now, if you guys can see, it's at 12:44 a.m. So it's like the only time I can, talk freely. You can see I'm not talking too loud. And yeah, so I'm gonna use this time efficiently. So the Grand Prix, a lot of speculation of whether it would happen or not. A lot of people know there was an attack around the Hill facility. I think around like almost 20 to 30 kilometers away from the track. That was wild news. Came out of nowhere. I honestly did not expect that, especially with all the news and today, with the stuff going on in Russia and Ukraine, other conflicts going around the world. You kind of just get used to it, and then that's what like really sucks about today's generation. Don't want to get too into politics of the world and stuff, but I don't know, the fact that that happened and none of us, or at least me, wasn't like shocked and be like, oh my god, this is crazy. It kind of felt like, oh, okay, no, too many people was hurt. What I've heard, can't confirm. So you kind of just move on, and kind of just probably been a week, we'll forget about it. While I assume 100, like 60 years ago, 50, 40 years ago, a missile attack near an F1 race would be world headline news. But that's just the craziness that we experience in our generation now. Going into this, so Checo Perez was on pole position, starting with, actually let me show you the starting grid. Checo Perez was on pole with a 128.2, Charles Leclerc with a 128.225, and then Carlos Sainz rounded up the podium places with a 28.4. Once again, Carlos started off well in qualifying in Q3, again was ahead of Leclerc, ahead of everybody. He was on provisional pole, and again, he just can't seem to string along with that second lap. He does a really good first lap, but then he just kind of falls off. And I mean, to be fair, I didn't expect Carlos to even get a podium at this track, especially considering last year he struggled tremendously. He had like a couple crashes, couple incidents. His teammate looked pretty faster than him around the entire weekend. So coming into here, I was probably expecting him to get probably a P4, but it surprised me. But either way, he has to start getting better to that second lap, and we'll talk about Carlos later because I'll dedicate a bit of a portion of my video to him, because I know it's only 2 races deep, and I don't wanna put anything. And yeah, but Carlos, to me, in my personal opinion, out of only 2 races, it's way too early, but out of the 2 races, in my opinion, he's been the most disappointed driver. We'll talk about that later. Max Verstappen finishing out disappointing P4 behind his teammate. There's something about Checo in the second race of the season where he loves beating his teammate. I don't know if you remember Imola 2021. He also started on the front row, qualifying P2, and Verstappen then qualified P3. And like this race, obviously much less to the extent, wasn't the best. He got overtaken by Verstappen quickly. I think on like the first, at the start, he got overtaken, and then he had a couple spins and finished out of the points in Imola. This race, nothing like that. It was a disaster in another kind, in the sense where he finished P4 and wasn't really able to. Once he, got screwed over by the safety car, wasn't able to put himself back into contention. Just kind of dropped back behind Carlos. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't his fault. The safety car that happened was like he was leading, he had a comfortable lead, but I just don't understand because supposedly the cars are supposed to follow closely. Dirty air isn't supposed to be much of a factor, but he had pace to win that race, so I don't understand why when he dropped to P4 during the safety car, he just fell away. I honestly was expecting him to, obviously, I mean, me personally, to get past Sainz, probably in 1 or 2 laps, and then start, competing with Verstappen and Leclerc. But he just kind of dropped back, so that's something that no one's really talking about these regulations where you're supposed to follow and the racing. But we clearly saw that Perez had pace to win the race. He was like 2 seconds clear of Leclerc, I think, before the safety car. So to him, after the safety car and being that third year, just drop back so massive is, I don't know. Just something that caught my curiosity, and I don't see too many creators talking about that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, unlucky for Checo. And then finishing with the best of the rest, Esteban Ocon, P5, tremendous qualifying from him. And again, Alpine, I was talking to my friends about this. I think if we had to say, probably Alpine probably have, because it's hard to say it, because they have the best driver lineup out of the midfield teams, right? For sure. And we can't really compare if they have the best or the best car. This just shows how much the drivers matter, because Bottas and Magnussen were pushing them, right? So if we had maybe a Bottas and Ocon in an Alfa Romeo, would it be the same thing? Would it be Bottas 6th and Ocon 7th? If we had a Magnussen and Ocon, or Magnussen, Alonso, etc., would it be the same thing? And then if we put a Schumacher, Gio, into the Alpine, would it also be just Fernando getting the points or just Ocon getting the points? That's why obviously drivers matter a lot. But at least this race it did look like the the fourth best car, because even Bottas and Magnussen they were able to fight them, but they weren't able to. I think they were never in front. Both of them. I know Bottas got past Ocon, and I think Magnussen did at one point too, but never got past Alonso, or didn't get the chance to, obviously retiring. But yeah, that shows just how the importance of a good driver lineup. I'm not bashing Zhou and Schumacher, because they're still very young drivers. Zhou is a rookie and Schumacher is a second year, but I mean, we can't deny the fact that if we put Ocon in the Alfa Romeo, they probably would have had more points by now. Probably. I could be wrong. But either way, he's done well for a rookie. We can't bash him too much. And obviously the last thing we have to talk about qualifying has to be the shock of Lewis Hamilton qualifying 16th. That doesn't show here. There we go. This was qualifying, how it ended. Hamilton finished almost a 10th behind Lance Stroll. That is crazy. What a shocker from Lewis Hamilton. Alex Albon was closer to Lewis Hamilton than he was to Lance Stroll. If my math is correct, hold on, let me see. I might have made myself look like an absolute idiot. So it was one tenth and a half faster than Albon. Let's see. Oh no, I'm an idiot. He was closer to Stroll. But either way, that's so fucking crazy. That's still a madness. Lance Stroll, my guy. Most of you guys know he's my favorite driver on the grid. And it's been a painful 2 years. After the highs of the Racing Point 2019. 2019 wasn't a great year, but we still got that P4 and fighting for the podium. 2020 was a great year, even though at the end it did kind of fizzle away, which also kind of sucked. It was a great start to the year. Many people forget he was the fourth driver. He was in P4 in the constructors, and after the first 4 races or something like that. That's crazy. And he was so unlucky. He had so many. No, I'm gonna back my boy Lance Stroll here. No one talks about that 2020 season. With true, you know, how we say it, just how lucky he was. Because we go back to Portimao, right? That's one race, right? I think. I don't know. I think that crash was pretty unlucky. Actually, that was a pretty bad example because like Portimao was kind of 50-50 in the racing incident. But alright, we'll go to Russia. He got spun out by Leclerc after he got a great start. He was up to P5 or something and got spun out by Leclerc. He retired a couple times too. He had he gotten taken out by Kvyat. In the Bahrain GP. Those are 2 DNFs. Why can't I think about it to the top of my head? The point that I'm making is that he had a lot of chance to gain a lot of points, but he had, I think he was the third driver with the most retirements. Mugello, he was definitely gonna get a podium in Mugello, and he got a tire failure, I think it was, the same like he's got him back in 2021. So very unlucky. Very, 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 very unlucky. He should have at least been P9 or P8 in the championship if it wasn't for his bad luck, but no one seems to back Stroll, but I'm here for it, and it's just kind of good to see him get some TV time again, because it's been a rough 2 years, and he hasn't been able to get absolutely any of it, so at least, focusing on him at least a little bit was cool to see as a fan. And obviously excited when he did outqualify Lewis Hamilton in an Aston Martin, which has been a dog of a car. It's been absolutely dreadful. So seeing that was nice. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton, something with the setup must have happened, because it's absolutely wild for him to be absolutely so much out of the pace compared to his teammate. If you compare Lewis Hamilton with softs couldn't get out of Q1, and Russell I think qualified, I don't know if it was Q1 or Q2 in the mediums, so that's crazy just to have a comparison. He was a 133, his teammate was a 129.6. Obviously it changes over time, so even if you want to look at out of the Q1 time, his first lap was, that is a Q1 time. Yeah, that's crazy. I thought this was gonna be the Q1 time, but not. He just been. I just want to know. Look how crazy this is. Qualifying 20 laps. That's insane. Qualifying 22 laps, 23, 20, 22, 24. That's crazy. That's so crazy. If we could go back to 2021, there's no way that's. Let's go F1. Oh, fuck. I hate how Yahoo has to. F1 2021 Saudi Arabian Gp. There we have it. Alright, let's go. Let's go here. I just want to see the difference of how the tire warm up is just changed so massively with the wheel covers. I think it was where you just can't get too much heat in those tires, and you have to do a bunch of. Alright, let's go to qualifying. Alright, I'm gonna do 23 left. Really? I haven't noticed then. How did that happen? I've honestly never noticed that he's done so many laps. Nah, I'm an idiot. They really do that much laps? Fucking hell, 9 laps in Q1? Bro, I just do the F1 game and I do one little quick lap and I'm out. Maybe 2. But these men are doing. I mean, I guess we don't count the out laps, so one out lap and then one real lap, so 2, max 6 laps. Nah, I look like an absolute mug now. Alright, but anyways, yeah, so Lewis Hamilton, disappointing off the pace of his teammate. Weird to see from Hamilton. Hopefully this isn't going to be like the start of, occasional hammerings from Russell, or occasional, Q2 exits or something like that, or qualifying P10. You don't want to see that. Any other big news in qualifying? Not really. I mean, Bottas again, P8 was nice. No, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, Schumacher had the crash, but he's okay. And prediction for next race, my basic prediction is that Haas will be the best of the rest in Australia, and my bold prediction is going to be that they get a podium. That would be crazy if Mick Schumacher just comes in and gets that podium. But I would have to probably bet that would be Magnussen. But yeah, has podium in Australia. You heard it here first. They always do good in Australia. Even in their shitty 2019 car, they still look like the best of the rest. And there's something about that track that they do well in. Obviously, if they get their pit stops right. Now, they have changed the track a lot, but I'm assuming that fundamentally it would still be there. I mean, Abu Dhabi changed quite significantly, and it's always been a Mercedes track, and that didn't change with the changes they make, so hopefully it stays a Haas track. So the result, here we have, we'll start off with the Red Bulls, Max Verstappen, and, well, we'll start with the top 2. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc had an excellent battle at the end from the final 10 laps, and this is kind of what I wanted, Paris to do, that I saw Verstappen do, because, after the restart, there was a time where there was almost a second and a half or something where Charles Leclerc was pushing away. So I kind of got scared that he was just gonna push the gap, and we're just gonna finish, with Leclerc winning and then Verstappen maybe finishing around 2 seconds back. But after 2 laps, and after that gap of 1.5 seconds, he closed it down, and it was just a straight up fight for the remainder of the race. Great wheel to wheel racing. Nice. The DRS chicken was entertaining to see, although could be considered dangerous, but it was just fun. It was fun racing. They seemed like they had fun after the race. And it's what you like to see in Formula One. And it was good to see, that Red Bull show that they can fight, because after Bahrain at least, you could clearly tell that Ferrari had the faster car, and Max Verstappen could maybe fight, but maybe for a couple laps, and then after that Leclerc would extend the gap quite significantly after. We didn't see that this race, so that was good to see. And now to Carlos Sainz, like I was saying, Carlos Sainz, I'm critiquing him because of the caliber of driver I think he can be. In my opinion, he can be a world championship driver. Okay? He beat his teammate last year, and he looks so far off the pace compared to his teammate. He still looks good, right? We're not denying it. I just think he can be so much better. That's why I'm so disappointed in him. And so far this season, he finished 8 seconds back on Verstappen off the lead, and this is after all their DRS chicken, all their fighting, and him pretty much in clean air in a sense, because I think you only get dirty air maybe 4 seconds behind the car, so he was pretty much in clean air, and he couldn't fight with them, he couldn't pull along with them, and this 3-way title fight is looking pretty much like a 2-way for now. So hopefully he can bounce back in Imola. I'm not too sure if he got qualified, because to be fair enough, he got out qualified by Charles Leclerc in Bahrain and in Saudi. So let's see, Imola starting grid. Perez, Leclerc, he got out qualified there too. Let's see if we beat him at least. 2020 Imola results. Alright, we'll see here. And this is Imola results. No, Leclerc finished P4, P5. So, I mean, well, the positives that we could do is that he's losing at least in the tracks that he lost to before. But, I mean, we can't expect Leclerc to have the issues he had last season with, crash and reliability, because it looks like a very well-oiled Charles Leclerc this season. But, the positive you can take is that he'll probably push in, the later half of the season. But by then, there's so much momentum that's lost. And by then, you saw with Bottas that, by, four races and him not, winning a race, we're alright, we're gonna put, team strategy calls, team orders, and it kind of just buns the rest of your season off. So I want Carlos to win the championship this season. It's definitely who I want to win. I feel like he deserves it, and I feel like, maybe this and next year's probably his last chance to do so. While Charles Leclerc have I mean, it's a bit harsh. He might have more time to that, but I'm saying that this is definitely a now time for Carlos compared to Verstappen and Leclerc. And Verstappen already got his title, but Leclerc is a lot younger and has that potential to be a multiple. I don't think Carlos will ever be a multiple. I think he could get one. But, time's catching up. Norris is, getting better. Obviously, he needs a better car. If Russell gets the car, he could challenge. You have a lot of good young drivers. Gasly, if he gets the car, I think definitely could challenge, in my opinion, too. Stroll, of course. No, I'm kidding. And yeah, so it's a now moment, and to see him so off the pace compared to his teammate, finishing 8 seconds with all that stuff going on. I mean, technically it's 7.5 seconds, but no, it's 8 seconds. It's 8 seconds, yeah. It's around 8 seconds, so yeah, no. He needs to definitely do some work in this week off and come back in that race and, I'll qualify Leclerc. First of all, because he's 2 down already. And organize that second Q3 lap, maybe do a weaker Q3 lap, and then finish with a good one in Q3 to get on pole, or at least I'll qualify Leclerc. Because the good thing about Verstappen, he doesn't, as long as he's finishing P2 to Verstappen, and maybe the next 2 races, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because with that DNF, it takes a lot of points away. But then he only has those 2 races. After that, he needs to contend for wins, and he hasn't even have a win in his career yet. So it's gonna be nice to see. So I pretty much discussed them. So we're gonna put Leclerc. Obviously has to be A tier. He did everything he had to do. He fought and he lost by less than a second. You can't complain. Verstappen. This will be in order, by the way. So I want to put Verstappen obviously A. Wait, is there an S tier? Oh shit. Verstappen, Leclerc. They were in a class of their own, finished 8 seconds. After, in 8 laps, they extended an 8-second lead to 3rd place. So that's crazy. That just shows how much better they were than everybody else. Checo, I'm gonna put in, not in D, wait, yeah, I'm gonna put him in A. You guys could be like, oh, but he got him pole. Yes, an A is still a very good result. It's very good. And you guys are going to talk about the safety car. Alright, but he deserves an S because the safety car wasn't his fault. I understand. But being in perspective, if that safety car was to happen to Verstappen or Leclerc, do you think they would have finished P4? In my opinion, my personal opinion, this is my opinion, I think if that's Leclerc or Verstappen in that P4, they're still pushing to at least a podium. At least a podium they're getting. Maybe even P2. Or at least, being thereabouts. Or definitely not finishing around 10 seconds off the lead. So that's why I'm like, it wasn't his fault, and he had pace to win, but he just fell back so back after the safety car and with new tires. So he's still a good result. Great weekend for him. Can't take that away. Who else deserves to go in A? I think probably the two Alvin boys. They show that they were like the two best drivers. At least they were P6, P7 for time. At one time it was P5 and P6. So P7, sorry, with Russell. So yeah, they showed there's definitely pace in that Alpine car, and me thinking that they were gonna be pretty bad this season is a big surprise. And it's a good strong start to the season. Points in both races. I'm also got unlucky with the safety with his mechanical issue, because they could have been up for some very big points and established their fourth spot position. But they're still in the fold. Haas got big points last week and got a couple this. So we'll see. They need to what? They just need to keep going. They've done everything they need to do so far, and the team strategy was they should have probably not fought too much after, because they did bring Bottas and Magnussen back into the fold, and who knows, if they worked as a team a bit before that, they could have maybe stayed at least a bit with Russell, and then been able to get his DRS, or they probably have more data than I do. They probably, if they know they weren't able to catch Russell, then they probably would have done it. But they're there. Who else is an A? Okay, I'm gonna just start off with Mick and F, and Yuki and F. They didn't do the race. Yuki couldn't even qualify. Mick Schumacher been did in qualifying, but before that he was having a pretty good qualifying session and looked on top of Magnussen. But we can't really relate to that too much. I have to put Science in A, right? I will put him at the back of A. He did his job. He did get podium. He did beat Checo. But I'm putting him there because I think he should be up with these two guys. And, him just not being able to fight so long. Maybe if we see that he's just going to be that second driver, I'll probably put him there. But since, in my perspective, he's a championship contender, he has to go there. I don't consider Checo a championship driver. I'm sorry. He's really good. He's a fucking great driver. But, just because you're not a championship driver doesn't mean that you're not a bad driver. Because, if it's, Leclerc who got P3 or Verstappen that got P3, they don't deserve an F. So, for B+, definitely I'm going to have to go with, Russell and then Norris for these two spots. Purely because of, actually, no, yeah, I'm gonna keep it like that, cause we'll talk about that later and why I think that, alright, this is a tough one. I think I have to put Bottas there, cause he wasn't for Norris, but I'll discuss why later. I'll talk about Russell first. Russell, he did his job. The Mercedes is the third best car. He finished the first out of the third best cars. And, he did his job and he beat Hamilton, which is what not a lot of people expected him to do so convincingly. And he trounced him. He was faster in the race, faster in qualifying. Lewis got knocked out in Q1. It has to be done. So, be a plus for Russell, and hopefully he can keep with this momentum. And he looks good. He looks good. And after Bahrain, he looked pretty out of it. So, compared to Hamilton, which isn't weird, or nothing that we're not used to seeing. So, seeing him put Hamilton on such a back foot is pretty weird to see. So, Russell a B tier. Bottas Norris is where I'm stuck on because Bottas was in P8 around where he was retiring. And he looked at some point like he even said on the radio that I got the pace. I'm just waiting for these boys to give me the chance, or like to referring to Ocon and Alonso fighting. Should never. No, I'll keep that there. So, he looked like he was gonna get some big points in this race, and it was a mechanical failure, so it wasn't part of his own. So it wasn't his fault. We're looking at, at a point like a P7 or P8, probably a P7, if he hasn't retired. Maybe even a P6. So that's a pretty good result for an Alfa Romeo. I'm just putting in a B because he didn't finish. I'm putting Fernando here because he was in that position, but he was also beating his teammate, and with Bottas I can't compare him, so we don't know really how quick that Alpha is. While with Alpine and Alonso and Ocon we know where that car is, so that's why unfortunately I have to put him in a B. Now I was gonna put Norris there because after Saudi it definitely looked like it was the worst car on the grid. And scoring a P7, obviously with a couple of retirements, but Williams and Aston were there. I mean, they at least looked at the level of Williams and Aston. So to get P7 is massive, absolutely massive, especially being a lot faster than Aston and Williams this race. He was at one point fighting Ocon and was ahead of him, but then got overtaken on the last lap. So P7's a mega job for Norris, mega job. And it's pretty surprising, so that's why I was contending, because I don't know what's more impressive, a P6 in an Alpha this year, or a P7 in a McLaren. So that's why I was, kind of iffy. Now for the series, wait. Yes, he has to go P8, nice points. Magnussen also goes into the B, very nice points. What can I say about these two guys? They're just incredible. They're consistent. Magnussen's doing a great job, even with they've both had difficulties this weekend. Magnussen with his neck, and Gasly with his terrible abdominal pain that we saw during the team radios. He really looked unwell, so hopefully he's doing better. But finishing P8 even with all that is pretty incredible. It shows that F1 drivers are just built different. Magnussen, that overtake on Gasly was on hard tires too, was crazy. So, a bit, you can, like, he even said himself, the car was probably better than P9. So that's why I'm putting him in at the end of B tier. But, him getting beaten by Norris is, kind of there. But, it's still a pretty good drive. Points is never been a hassle. It's always a good result. You saw they were even excited when Mick got a P11, so that's not bad. Not bad at all. Good job for Kevin, good for Pierre. Points on the board for them. Now to the C tier. Actually, let me start off with Latifi. Awful job this weekend. Which is, kind of sad because I was expecting him to, push Albon, or at least to be close with him, maybe a qualify sometimes this season, but he just looks so off the pace. He's getting trounced the same way he got trounced by Russell, and getting beaten by Russell, he looks like a generational talent. Alex Albon is definitely not that. So getting trounced by him in qualifying isn't the best look for good old Nicholas, so we definitely have to hope he steps it up or something, because qualifying in both, crashing in both qualifying and the race, and then qualifying P20 and his teammate qualifying P15. Big difference in Bahrain, and then here again, just getting out qualified, finishing last pretty much because Sonora didn't settle out. It's not good. We're gonna put him there. C tier, we're gonna put Stroll, Albon, Joe, Ricardo, yeah, that seems right. I'll just get the quick ones out of the way. Joe finished P11 once again, close to points. However, his team did fist him with the mistake with the drive-through penalty. We do forget either way. A lot of people aren't talking about the penalty was his fault, and he was gonna get a 5-second penalty for a mistake he made, or whatever penalty he had to take. So he still wasn't probably gonna get points. But and his teammate was always in the points. So again, it's a mid drive from him. It's a mid drive. But yeah, Stroll. I put him at the top of the C tier because he looked. Actually, I'm on a mad one. Hold on. There we go. So Ricardo looked like the fastest out of all these and was pretty close to Norris. I think he was in the points even at one time, which is pretty incredible. But he did retire, unfortunately. So, but he was beaten again by his teammate in qualifying, so that's just why I put him in C tier. Because all these Fernando got Q3, but beat his teammate convincingly, and so Magnussen did as well after the Schumacher crash, obviously. So yeah, not too much to say. He's again closer to Norris, which is good to see, but that McLaren doesn't look too good. The Aston, like we were saying, at least Stroll was on at a point at P11. At the probably would have finished in P11. He was at the highest of P9 at one point. Thought we might see some points. Unfortunately, no. P11 either way, and then Aston really isn't bad, and it's probably where a driver in an Aston should be. So, he did his job. And the crash I saw was Albon's fault in my opinion. He locked up a bit on the left tire, front left, so he wasn't in complete of the control, and he let off the brakes pretty far back. And you could say that Lance Stroll left not a lot of room, but at the same point you can't just come steaming in there. That could be my bias. Maybe if it was Stroll on the other side, you wouldn't want to see that. But Stroll, he does like to close in a lot, which is his problem. Against Noda he closed in, against Kvyat he closed in, against Norris he closed in. In Portimao, so he has to try to fix that issue. He needs to get a bit more awareness, but either way, I don't consider that his fault. Albon, same thing, beat his teammate by a long long margin was pretty clean. Didn't really look like he got was of crashing like Latifi did in both sessions. I mean he did crash, but in the sense like it was with another driver, and it wasn't him binning it, or it wasn't him just losing the rear or something. It was him making an opportunistic move, and it just didn't work out for him. And P11, people are saying, oh, they're only fighting for P11, like it wasn't even for points. But in this race, anything could happen. It's the final lap. You never know. Max and Leclerc could, they're fighting. They could, crash into each other on, fighting for the win, right? Any of the drivers could, just go off fighting for points. So that just one driver retiring, one more driver retiring, and you earn a massive point for your team, because you're not expecting Williams and Aston to score too many points this season, at least with the first round of developments. So yeah, putting them there. I mean, Joe, like I mentioned before, was again back in P20 at the start. Terrible starts from the Alpha, but Bottas seemed like he didn't have too much of. I think he probably actually had a pretty good start, so it was more of a Joe problem this time. We got the joke. So yeah, but like I said, it was the only reason I'm putting him on D is because I think even with the penalty, if all that chaos didn't happen with this team, he probably still would have finished P11 or something. And no, I'm kidding. Yeah, probably P11. And Hamilton, and I'm sorry, and him at the back of the field with Hamilton were overtaking a lot of cars, so that was pretty cool to see. Hulkenberg, there's nothing else to say. I mean, Stroll was quicker than him and everything. In the race, qualifying, I mean, he did come on short notice, but that's why you can't really grade him. That's why I'm not going to give him a D, because, what do you expect him to do? So, Nico's there. I would have liked him, to back a lot of the cars up, because that would have been good for Stroll when Hulkenberg was in like P9 or P10 at one point when he didn't pit. That would have lost a lot, but keeping cars back in Saudi doesn't seem easy, because one DRS zone and they're gone. Just the final one, Lewis Hamilton, controversial. A lot of people were saying, oh, he was at P6 at one point. P6, he was close to Russell. I'm like, yeah, but that's because Hamilton hasn't pitted. It was impressive. It looked like Hamilton could, go to the end on that one stint, which was impressive. He was keeping the pace with Russell, new tires him in on just the same tires they started with, which is really impressive. But that does mean he has to take a stop. So we're talking that he was with Russell, but a pit stop is like 32 seconds, so he'd be 32 seconds back. We're looking that he probably would have finished behind Alonso and Ocon. I would say probably a P7 result from him. Maybe would have finished between in front of one of the Alpines, not both. And he finished P10 with Ricardo in front retiring. What's it called? Alonso retiring, so that's already 2 positions in usual top 10s. Bottas as well, 3 positions that are usually in the top 10. So we're talking about this, they probably would be in the top 10 right now if it wasn't for their retirements. I mean, Hamilton would have probably got past Ricardo, but Bottas and Fernando, would have been a bit more of an issue and would have lost him more time, at least passing them. So even with all that, he only finished P10. Qualifying, he didn't get out with Tsunoda not getting a lap. And you would probably at least make an effort. Like, if he's not getting to Q1, or he's out of Q1, he's finishing P16, right? Because that's where Hamilton finished. So And Yuki Tsunoda likes this track a lot. I mean, at last season, I think he finished. Where did he finish last season? I think he got like P6, 2021. Saudi. Results. I think he got like in the top 6. I could be mistaken. Or I'm gonna be on BBC Sport this time. Oh, he didn't get points? Damn, bro, my memory's been terrible this way. Where did he finish? Oh, he had the incident with. I think I got confused with Abu Dhabi with this one. He had that incident with Vettel, I think. He got Q3 though, at least, right? No. I'm talking shit right now, so it's been 46 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. That kind of just lost my momentum of thought. Either way, the point is he shouldn't be out of Q1. So, and a lot of people are saying, oh, he was at P6 at one time, yeah, but without a stop. And he did get screwed over by the safety car, but, the virtual safety car, but, I mean, that's the strategy that they chose and they risked it. They kind of, they were banking on one to happen, on a safety car to happen, not a virtual, but that's what I'm saying. So you can't really go too wrong with that. And finishing P10 in a Mercedes is when Russell is beating you by that much. It's pretty mad. It is pretty mad. Russell is very inexperienced compared to Hamilton. So for him to outqualify you by that much and do that much in the race, compared to you is not good. And you can be saying like, oh, okay, what about how is he had a bit worse race than that? I mean, obviously because I hold Hamilton to a higher account out of these drivers. Like if it was Stroll, I would be like, oh, because I'm very much aware that Stroll is never going to be a world championship, so I don't hold him to that high of a level. So that's why, and even then, Stroll was a menace to Hamilton this weekend. He had that nice defense on him earlier in the race, and knocking him out of Q1 was funny to see. But like I said, my personal opinion, I think a P11 in an Aston in the race that happened is more impressive than a P10 in a Mercedes with the race that happened. I'm just gonna leave it off like that. Same with Albon P12 in a Williams. I find it more impressive than P10 in a Mercedes. And you can say, oh, it was a safety car, but safety car messed up a lot of people. And when you're like on retired for that long, you have to take into account that stuff happens. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A 50-minute video for you guys that no one's gonna see, but I like chatting shit. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna go to bed now. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and let me know what you guys think.